It's Wednesday, November 2. In the headlines, Prime Minister Andrew Holness announces billion-dollar road project. The police are concerned about teen crimes. In St. Lucia, Sports Minister doubles down on entertainment ban. And in sports, a 17-year-old Jamaican sprinter nominated for World Athletics Award. This is the news on PBC Jamaica. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. It will take just about $1 billion to mitigate the effects of possible torrential rains associated with the hurricane season. That information was shared by Prime Minister Andrew Holness during his address to the House of Representatives on Tuesday.
Prime Minister Andrew Holness said each constituency is to be allocated 21 million Jamaican dollars to undertake the works.
It is now coming to the end of the year and hopefully the end of the Atlantic hurricane season. It is customary for us to engage in 3 rounds of mitigation efforts over the hurricane seasons. Over this hurricane season, at the start of the hurricane season in June, at the peak of the hurricane season in August, September, and at the end of the season, November, December. This year will be no different. The NWA will again be coordinating the activities on behalf of the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation. The NWA will be the lead agency, but the NSWMA also plays a role in this iteration of the mitigation efforts.
The announcement follows almost weekly protests by residents across the island over the poor state of the roads in their communities. Concerns have also increased about the road's infrastructure's vulnerability to rains associated with weather systems.
The cost accrued on a parish basis is as follows. For St. Thomas, for both cost of reopening roads and permanent restoration works, $59.1 million. For Kingston, $17.75 million. For St. Andrew, and this is now would be rural St. Andrew, east and west. I'm seeing here this figure, $5 million, but I will check that with the NWA. For St. Catherine, $73.95 million. For Clarendon, which has the brunt of the damage, $649.7 million. For Manchester, $3 million. For St. Elizabeth, $26 million. For Westmoreland, $1.4 million. Hanover, $2.9 million. St. James, $16.7 million. Trelawney, $29.5 million. St. Anne and St. Mary, negligible. Portland, $1.9 million. Now, just to be clear on this, members, these would be the assessment of roads and infrastructure, other infrastructure damaged as a result of Tropical Storm Ian. So it's quite likely that some parishes had no impact, and that is why the figures are so low.
According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Hurricane Research Division, the Atlantic hurricane season officially runs from June 1 to November 30 each year. This 6-month period was chosen by the National Hurricane Center because it accounts for 97% of all Atlantic tropical storms and hurricanes. Meteorologists say November systems normally develop in portions of the Atlantic near the Bahamas and the Western Caribbean. For PBCJ News, I'm Carla Thomas Hewitt.
Reggae artist Jacure appeared before the court in the Netherlands on Tuesday for a pro forma hearing. The court ruled that he will continue to serve his 6-year prison sentence for attempted manslaughter. He is scheduled to return on January 24, 2023. In the Netherlands, a pro forma hearing occurs every 90 days, during which a judge decides whether or not a jailed person should remain in detention. In March 2022, Jacure was sentenced to 6 years for stabbing a show promoter over unpaid monies. The artist, who was acquitted of attempted murder, has been incarcerated since October 2021. There's a worrying trend about the number of children being brought to book for serious crimes. The matter was discussed on Tuesday at the Jamaica Constabulary Force's monthly press briefing. Police Commissioner Major General Anthony Anderson says 875 charges were laid against children from 2019 to date.
Let's examine the 4-year period 2019 to present. Overall, during that time period, children have been charged with 875 major crimes in Jamaica. There have been 79 murder charges, 66 for shooting. A total of 175 children have been charged for rape over the period. There have been 256 charges for breaches of the Firearm Act, 175 for break-ins, 89 cases of robbery, and 65 for aggravated assault. These individuals who, if we do not act collectively, are getting into an early career of violence and crime. We are bringing this to the nation's attention because, as a society, we have to decide how we are going to save them.
He's calling for collective action to determine how to save children from predators.
It is important that all institutions of society be vigilant and engage in early surveillance and monitoring, whether in the home, school, or elsewhere, so that we can identify the early signs of violent tendencies before they become a law enforcement problem.
The police chief pointed out the various early intervention strategies being carried out by the police.
As the police, we engage in various early intervention strategies through our Community Safety and Security Branch and programs like the Police Youth Club. As we have spoken of previously, we work closely with the Ministry of Education and the Safe Schools program.
A new gun amnesty will begin this weekend. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang confirmed the arrangements in Parliament on Tuesday.
This amnesty will allow persons who may be in possession of a legal firearm or unregistered firearm or ammunition, or those for which no license or authority exists, opportunity to surrender these firearms or ammunition to the state without the fear of prosecution. Essentially, in summary, Madam Speaker, this is someone who may have a firearm, an illegal firearm, with no criminal intent, that is, may surrender it during the specified time. It's not just a criminal changing of the mind. There are individuals who may have inherited a firearm, from grandfather, uncle, or otherwise. They have had it locked in a safe and just not paying the attention to it.
Jamaica first had a national firearms amnesty in 1973 as the administration of Prime Minister Michael Manley sought to turn back the tide of rising gun violence half a century ago.
Firearms and ammunition may be surrendered to any sub-officer or senior sub-officer on duty at a police station, any designated officer at any FLA location, or to an attorney at law on behalf of an individual seeking the amnesty for an attorney to deliver the firearm or ammunition to the nearest police station. The three categories, Madam Speaker: sub-officer at the police station, any police station, they may call a designated officer at an FLA office, or an attorney at law acting on behalf of the particular kind.
The gun amnesty announcement follows the enactment of the new Firearms Act. The final legislative procedure has been completed. National Security Minister Dr. Horace Chang made the disclosure during Tuesday's sitting of the lower house.
As of today, anyone apprehended and charged by any of the identified criminal breaches under this act will now be subject to a new range of penalties dealing with prohibited weapons, that is, ranging from 15 years to life imprisonment.
The new law has not only increased penalties for illegal possession of firearms, but it has changed the entire regime surrounding the use, handling, sale, and management of firearms by various authorized personnel.
Every effort is being made, Madam Speaker, to ensure we can provide our policemen with the tools required to fight the criminals that are out there across our country, hurting our people, provide them with the physical tools, the physical infrastructure. We will continue to look at how we can improve and expand the legislative framework that they have to fight with. And this one, in fact, when it goes into, as it went in today, it will mean that when they work hard, long hours, take the risk to apprehend the killers, the shooters, the one who carry out these crimes across the country, killing each other and killing innocent people, robbing and other brutal activity, trading in drugs, including Molly, coke, ganja, when the police work long hours, hard, and remove them from the street, they'll be put away for a long time.
The new law outlines the objectives that speak to establishing a framework that prohibits firearms and ammunition that are illicitly traded, and which regards possession of those prohibited firearms and ammunition as the foundation on which other heinous and violent crimes are committed. Time now for the business report with Danita Rodney.
Sagicor Bank and PriceSmart Jamaica on Friday officially launched their joint product, the Sagicor Bank PriceSmart Visa Gold Credit Card. After speaking at the launch and describing the move as a welcome trend in the commercial space, Minister of Industry, Investment and Commerce, Albin Hill, goes on to elaborate what that statement meant.
It's always good when you see three big organizations having the balance sheet, the cash flow, the financial capital, and the people capital that they possess coming together in our country to make a partnership such as they have done today between PriceSmart, Sagicor, and Visa. Those are brands that every Jamaican recognizes. As I said, PriceSmart is now almost equivalent to Milo to Jamaican. Although Nestle makes Milo, we own it. Jamaicans have now come to own PriceSmart. And of course, Visa is owned by us. Sagicor is our financial institution. Very happy to see that happening. And I'd like to see more collaboration and partnership among our Jamaican organizations.
Minister Hill also gave his thoughts on what this new partnership could mean for the Jamaican consumers.
What's happening is many Jamaicans now won't necessarily have to go online overseas. They can go online to PriceSmart. PriceSmart will actually deliver, and PriceSmart will give you a cashback. The overseas purchases that you make generally sometimes won't give you any cashback. So I want to see this happening, and then for Jamaica to become that logistics hub that I hope PriceSmart will make it one day, because it's so efficient to do business here and to do business across the Caribbean and Latin America.
The card, which was introduced to the market this summer, will allow consumers to earn 4% cash back when they use the card to make purchases at PriceSmart and 1% when used elsewhere. Now for your market updates. In foreign exchange trading for Tuesday, November 1, the US dollar sold for an average of $154.07. The Canadian dollar ended trading at $113.73. The pound sterling traded for $176.54, and the euro sold for $153.88. In GSE trading, the GSE index declined by 1,605 points. The junior market index advanced by 8 points. The combined market index declined by 1,424 points. And the All Jamaican Composite Index declined by 818 points. Overall market activity resulted from trading in 107 stocks, of which 42 advanced, 52 declined, and 13 traded firm. Stocks advanced for 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited, 138 Student Living Jamaica Limited Weber Preference, and Access Financial Services Limited. Stocks declined for AMG Packaging and Paper Company Limited, Barita Investments Limited, and Caribbean Cement Company Limited. Trading firm were Edufocal Limited, Epley Limited 7.25% preference shares, and Guardian Holdings Limited. The overall volume leaders were Wigton Wind Farm Limited ordinary shares with over 3 million units, Trans-Jamaican Highway Limited, and Dollar Financial Services Limited with over 1 million units. In regional stocks, in Trinidad and Tobago, Clico Investment Fund was the volume leader with 821 shares, followed by Calypso Macro Index Fund with a volume of 20 shares. On the Barbados Stock Exchange, Government of Barbados Bond Series B was the sole security trading over 10,000 shares. In regional business, the United Nations will be directing hundreds of millions of US dollars into the local Trinidadian economy. This is according to country coordinator of the organization, Mark Thomas. Karen Brown Campbell has the details.
In the near future, the United Nations will financially assist businesses in strengthening their approach to access environment, society, and governance bonds. This is according to the UN's country coordinator for TNT, Aruba and St. Martin, Mark Thomas.
The UN is partnering with AmCham to promote ESG, a business philosophy that is taking the investment world by storm, which with AmCham TNT we have developed freely available guides. Unfortunately, the physical copies were not available from the printer by this morning.
He added, these guides would assist companies to change the way they do business.
To help local companies better integrate ESG into their strategies, production, and reporting, and to better capitalize on the 53 trillion US dollars that will be directed towards ESG investments by 2025.
During the 3-day conference, which started on Tuesday, free workshops on the new strategy are being conducted online and at the venue.
If you make your environmental, your social, and your governance processes more structured and systematic, this will have catalytic effects throughout your organization. Don't view ESG as an end, view it as a means.
Mr. Thomas made his comments as he delivered the feature address at the American Chamber of TNT's HSSE conference at the Hyatt Regency.
In market data for oil prices have slipped ahead of an expected rate hike by the Federal Reserve. Brent crude slipped 56 cents to $94.09 a barrel, while West Texas Intermediate crude was down 53 cents at $87.84 per barrel. And that was the business report on PBCJ. I'm Denita Rodney.
In regional news, we begin in St. Lucia. Youth and Sports Minister Kenson Casimir is reaffirming his stance that the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground should not be used for non-sporting activities. This follows a statement made in regard to the cricket ground being used for alternative events.
Youth and Sports Minister Honorable Kenson Casimir is doubling down on his claims that the Darren Sammy Cricket Ground should not be used for non-sporting activities. The minister was on the receiving end of public backlash when he expressed his views following the Onyx concert held on October 15th. Casimir said he is a sports minister first and will address issues as they pertain to his ministry as such.
As a sports minister, what other announcement would you expect me to make other than prioritizing youth and sports development first? When I made my statement, it was against the backdrop that we as a nation need to start looking at alternatives. We need to start looking at, for instance, the possibility of a national event center, a center that is there for those events, that is self-sustainable.
Casimir also shut down claims that revenue generated from hosting events are not enough to cover the facility's maintenance.
Absolutely fallacious for anybody to believe that hosting an event on the surface at Darren Sammy brings in enough revenue for the maintenance of Darren Sammy. The cost of the chemicals imported in St. Lucia to deal with those various issues makes it very cost prohibitive.
He added that as a nation, St. Lucia does not possess the discipline required to bring the facility conditions back to its intended purpose.
So I've heard the argument that Trinidad and Barbados, they have events on playing fields every day. My thing is the discipline over the years that as a nation we should have in terms of bringing those playing surfaces back up for young men and women to use immediately after events has not been there.
Casimir says there are a number of options which can be explored when hosting events.
We have a number of options that we can explore, and I think that is what I want to do. I'm not saying that we will never have in and around facilities, places that we can blockade, but I think I'm very concerned about the way we use our surfaces, and that is what my statement was about.
The minister's announcements was made on Monday, October 31st, at a pre-cabinet briefing.
In Guyana, people suffering from memory loss and other associated illnesses linked to stress and anxiety or any setbacks mentally could now get the best help, as advanced treatment is now available in Guyana.
A Guyanese doctor who has worked and practiced overseas for several years has returned to Guyana and is offering modern advanced treatment for brain disorders. Dr. Devendra Sharma returned here in May this year and operates at Advanced Healthcare International at Diamond, East Bank, Demerara. He explained that it was his own experience with his mother and her memory that prompted him to return to Guyana and offer low-level laser therapy for brain disorders.
I want to see that my people improve, especially areas of memory. I think that's quite neglected, that we're still using some very old-fashioned type of treatments for memory disorders. And I've been looking at the more advanced programs, which are working very well in Europe and the USA. Recovery in memory is extremely difficult. At one point, persons felt that it could not happen. But again, we're seeing that there is the possibility of stoppage, slowing down, and even to some extent recovery using some of these more modern treatment programs.
Dr. Sharma is attempting to enhance the treatment and management of brain disorders, and he believes this can be achieved by introducing neurological examinations as part of regular health checkups.
Many a times doctors will just order CTs and MRIs, which are useful, but without a good medical history, and a neurological is actually a prerequisite, and I find it very unfortunate that many doctors don't do that. That's the skill and the necessity of being a good physician.
This, he explained, can reduce costly tests that sometimes do not produce results. But at Advanced Healthcare, the treatment for brain disorders aims to be more holistic.
So we're treating a wide variety of brain problems, including memory problems, cognitive decline, preventing the memory problems from going further by using low-level laser therapy. But in addition, we can do treatments for nutritional deficiencies, give the more advanced vitamins and the B vitamins and antioxidants, which are very helpful. So there are a wide range of good modern natural medicines too that can also be used rather than just using chemical medications.
Dr. Sharma also treats patients with post-traumatic brain injury, Parkinson, and focusing and concentration problems. He noted that patients with poor blood circulation can also benefit from this treatment, as others with conditions like Alzheimer's and dementia.
In Belize, cases of price gouging are often recorded during natural disasters, and as such, the Belize Bureau of Standards issued an advisory reminding consumers of the importance of saving receipts as proof of purchase, which can serve as a basis to formally report businesses engaging in price gouging.
I think that it's something that has happened before, and on other occasions, I think we have heard the Minister of Agriculture, Honorable Hosamai, speaking about that, and we certainly implore these businesses to really not do that, because it affects largely the poor people who really can't afford it. And so there are certain items that we know are controlled, so you can't increase the prices on those. But there are other items that will be absolutely necessary for these people to take to their shelters or to move from one place to the other. Or even if you want to stay at home and you start to stock up on water and some food, then sometimes this issue with price gouging occurs. And certainly, I can say for sure that the government of Belize discourages this type of activity.
In the Bahamas, closed signs hung outside pharmacies nationwide as a standoff against price control medications between the government and pharmacists came to a head. But at the heart of it is not enough time given to adjust prices.
President of the Bahamas Pharmaceutical Association, Shantia McBride, says when the BPA met with Economic Affairs Minister Michael Alcides, they were under the impression that consultation had begun. 2 days later, they were told the government would be enforcing changes to the price control list starting November 1st.
We can't afford to be fined today, and based on those margins, we can't afford to close tomorrow. So if those margins are to continue, even if they're saying for 3 months, Some of our small pharmacies may close.
According to the BPA, the list of products impacted by the government's price control amendment represents some 60 to 70% of the revenue generated by local pharmacies and pharmaceutical wholesalers. McBride says they're still awaiting a response that their recommendations have been received.
We're not closing out of greed, out of malice. We're closing to ensure that when we do provide some recommendation or some type of outcome to this amendment, it's beneficial to the public, to the government, and to the nation.
Minister of Economic Affairs Michael Alkitis confirming to reporters that they got the BPA's letter of recommendations on Thursday and were in the midst of analyzing them and preparing a response.
If you are implementing, but you're not completely implemented, we will not, come with a hard enforcement, but we cannot tolerate people saying, the effort of the government to bring relief to the consumers, they say, we ain't doing it. That's not something we're prepared to contemplate.
In international news, South Korean police have said crowd control measures at the scene of a deadly Halloween crush in the capital Seoul were inadequate, promising tough new safety measures to prevent such a tragedy from happening again. More from Al Jazeera News.
Lee Da-young was at Itaewon on Saturday, the night of the Halloween crowd crush.
I told people there was someone on the ground. There was nothing we could do. I wasn't strong enough to move her. I saw the crowd just fall forward. I can't get those images out of my mind.
She's returned to grieve those who died.
I really didn't want to come back, but I felt I'd regret it for the rest of my life if I didn't. So I came to lay flowers and say a prayer.
She realizes she could just as easily have been one of the victims and says she feels lucky, but also guilty.
I feel like I've committed a sin. I was the only one that got out. They were all like my friends. I only found out the scale of the disaster after seeing it on the news. It was so distressing.
The memorial altar at Itaewon is one of many set up across South Korea. On Tuesday, President Yoon Suk-yeol and some cabinet ministers came to pay their respects.
Majority of the shops around the site of the accident are shut as a mark of respect. You get a sense that this is a nation in collective mourning.
There is too a feeling of collective trauma. Scenes of the disaster played out in real time on social media and were broadcast repeatedly for days after. The government has extended free counselling services to not only those directly affected, but to the general public as well. The nation's mood is slowly shifting to one of anger. The police chief, who's faced repeated questions about the force's preparation for and response to Saturday's accident, apologized on Tuesday.
In sports, an update on the Costa Cup. Title holders Garvin Maceo are in danger of an early exit from this year's ISA the Costa Cup competition as they remain without a win in the Zone A round of 16 following a 1-0 defeat by Central High on Tuesday at Fogo Road. The unbeaten William Knibb High claimed a 1-0 win over former champions Cornwall College at Drax Hall. Meanwhile, Manchester High defeated Christiana High 2-1 at home, where Jamar Brown scored a double for Manchester. Denhill Technical got the better of Paul Bogle 1-0 in their latest match. Jamaica's World Under-20 100 meters hurdles champion Kerika Hill has been nominated for World Athletics 2022 Women's Rising Star Award. The award will recognize this year's best under-20 athlete at the World Athletics Awards. 17-year-old Kerika Hill was a member of Jamaica's gold medal winning 4x100 meters relay team at the championship, which set a new world under-20 record of 42.59 seconds. Hill clocked 12.77 seconds to win the 100-meter hurdles at the World Athletics Under-20 Championships in Cali, Colombia in August. Her winning time was a World Under-20 leading mark, as well as a World Under-18 best. She's among 5 other nominees. The winner of the 2022 Women's Rising Star Award will be announced on World Athletics social media platforms in early December. The Sunshine Girls are set to participate in the 2022 Fast 5 Netball World Series to be held this Friday and Saturday, November 5 and 6 in New Zealand. The Silver Ferns are defending champions. The squad will be missing a number of regular faces, including Janelle Fowler, as they look to better their second-place finishes in 2017, 2018 and 2009. But Captain Janelle Fowler says she doesn't expect the inexperienced makeup of the squad to work against them in the upcoming Fast 5 World Series. And that's it for the news on PBCJ. I'm Simone Absalom Gale. You can follow us on our social media platforms at PBCJamaica. And remember, we are the People's Station.